She poisoned her. The crystal ballroom freezes as an 8-year-old in a pink dress lies motionless on cold marble, orange juice bleeding across the floor. Chandeliers burn white hot, cameras flash, and in the center of it all an emerald-clad fiancé raises a tiny glass vial and points at the maid already in handcuffs. At the edge of the chaos, a silent driver watches, his cheap cap hiding the face that built this empire. He knows this isn't an accident, it's a performance, and the wrong woman is being sacrificed. If he speaks, his secret life explodes. If he stays silent, a child pays the price. Who is this driver really? And why does the maid look like the only person willing to die for his daughter? What happened next shocked everyone and set off a chain of events no one saw coming. Stay with me, this is a story you need to hear. Before we start the story, comment below and let us know where in the world you're watching from today. And if you find this story impactful, don't forget to subscribe for more. The crystal chandeliers of the Mera mansion blazed like 1,000 stars, casting diamond-bright reflections across the sea of silk gowns and tailored tuxedos that filled the grand ballroom. Champagne flutes clinked in a symphony of wealth and influence, while a string quartet played softly in the corner, their melody barely audible over the murmur of India's elite discussing charity and business deals in the same breath. But beneath the glitter and grace, something dark was unfolding. 8-year-old Anya Mera stood at the edge of the crowd, her small frame nearly swallowed by the extravagant scene around her. Her pale pink dress, chosen by her future stepmother, felt too tight around her chest, and her eyes, dark and uncertain, darted nervously across the room. Karina Malhotra, stunning in an emerald gown that hugged every curve, glided toward the child with a glass of bright orange juice in one perfectly manicured hand, her smile camera-ready and cold. "Darling, you look tired," Karina cooed, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Drink this. It's your favorite, freshly squeezed, just for you." Anya hesitated, her fingers trembling as she took the glass. Something in Karina's eyes made her stomach twist, but the weight of expectation, the watching guests, the photographers, the pressure to be the perfect daughter pushed her to raise the glass to her lips. She drank. Within moments, her vision blurred. The ballroom tilted. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the marble floor with a sickening thud, the glass shattering beside her. Screams erupted, guests surged forward. Karina's shriek pierced the chaos. "Someone help her. Oh my God, someone's poisoned her." In the confusion, Karina bent down near a young woman in a simple maid's uniform, Leela, who had rushed forward to help, and suddenly straightened, holding a tiny glass vial between her fingers. Her face twisted into a mask of horror and fury. "This was in her pocket." Karina's voice rang out like a judge's gavel, and she pointed a shaking finger at Leela. "She poisoned Anya. I saw her near the juice earlier. She's tried to kill my future daughter." Leela's face drained of all color. "No, I didn't. I would never." But security was already moving. Rough hands grabbed Leela's arms, dragging her backward as she sobbed and protested her innocence. Guests whispered and gasped, phones recording the scandal. In the chaos, a quiet man in a driver's uniform stood near the back entrance, his jaw clenched so tight it ached. His name tag read Raj, but his eyes, dark, intelligent, burning with a fury he could barely contain, belonged to someone far more powerful than a simple driver. Raj took a step forward, then stopped himself. His hands curled into fists. He watched as paramedics rushed to Anya, as Karina wept performatively for the cameras, as Leela was hauled away in handcuffs, her voice breaking with desperate pleas. He knew the truth. He knew what was really happening, but revealing himself now would destroy everything. As Karina turned to the crowd, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion, "I will not rest until justice is served, until that woman pays for what she's done to this innocent child." Raj's eyes met Leela's across the ballroom for one brief, agonizing second. In that moment, a silent promise passed between them, though she didn't yet understand who he truly was or why his gaze held such authority. The camera of fate lingered on Raj's face, on the storm brewing behind his carefully neutral expression, hinting that the truth buried beneath this spectacle was far darker and far more dangerous than anyone in that glittering room could imagine. What Raj knows could bring down an empire. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next. The floor-to-ceiling windows of Arjun Mehra's penthouse office overlooked a sprawling Mumbai skyline, a concrete jungle where fortunes rose and fell with the tides of ambition. But Arjun wasn't looking at the view. He sat at his desk, his tie loosened, exhaustion etched into the lines around his eyes, listening to a voice note on his phone for the third time. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" Anya's voice was small, hesitant, barely above a whisper. "Miss Karina was really angry today because I spilled water on the carpet. She said I'm clumsy and that you'll be disappointed in me. She's nice when other people are around, but when it's just us, she looks at me like she wishes I wasn't here. I'm scared, Daddy. Please come home soon." Arjun's chest tightened. He set the phone down and picked up a stack of financial reports. His head of security had flagged unusual transfers, accounts he didn't recognize, expenses that didn't match his records. Small discrepancies, perhaps, but enough to make him uneasy. And then there was Karina. Beautiful, charming Karina, who had swept into his life 6 months after his wife's death, offering companionship and promising to help him build a family again. The society pages adored her. His business associates envied him, but his daughter's voice told a different story. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. Vikram Kapoor, his longtime lawyer and one of the few men Arjun truly trusted, entered with a leather folder under his arm. "You asked for a deep background check on Karina Malhotra," Vikram said, setting the folder on the desk. "It's not pretty. Her last 2 relationships were with wealthy men. Both ended abruptly once she gained access to joint accounts, and both men chose not to press charges in exchange for her signing NDAs. She's smart, Arjun. She knows how to stay just within legal boundaries." Arjun's jaw tightened. "And my daughter is alone with her every day. What do you want to do?" Arjun was silent for a long moment, staring at the photo of Anya on his desk, her bright smile so much like her mother's. Then he made a decision that would change everything. "I'm going to disappear," he said quietly. "Publicly, I'll be on an extended business trip abroad, Europe, then Singapore, unreachable except through assistance. But privately, I'll come back to my own estate in disguise, as staff, maybe a driver. I need to see what happens in that house when everyone thinks I'm not watching." Vikram's eyebrows shot up. "That's extreme and risky. If she finds out, then I'll know the truth." Arjun's voice was steel. "I need to see who Karina really is when the mask comes off, and I need to know my daughter is safe. Arrange it. New identity, background story, everything. I'll also need hidden cameras installed in common areas, legally, for security purposes. And Vikram, hire someone genuinely kind to work in the house. Someone who'll care about Anya if things go wrong. Someone from one of our foundation's programs, maybe. Someone who has nothing to gain from lying." Vikram nodded slowly, though doubt flickered in his eyes. "I'll make the arrangements. But Arjun, testing people like this, especially from a position of power, be careful you don't lose yourself in the deception." Leela Sharma stood outside a gleaming office building, her worn shoes and simple cotton salwar kameez a stark contrast to the glass and steel modernity around her. In her hand, she clutched a crumpled printout, a job listing for a housekeeping position at the Mehra estate, referred through a charitable foundation that helped working-class women find stable employment. Her heart hammered in her chest. This job could change everything. Her mother's medical bills were piling up, the landlord was threatening eviction, and every other position she'd applied for had turned her away for lack of experience in high-profile households. But the Mehra family was known for their philanthropy. Maybe, just maybe, they would give her a chance. The interview was brief but kind. The estate manager, a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, asked basic questions, checked her references from the foundation, and then smiled. "You start Monday. The master of the house is traveling for several weeks, but his fiancée, Miss Malhotra, and his daughter, Anya, are in residence. You'll assist with cleaning, laundry, and light household duties. The pay is fair, and there's a staff meal provided daily. Don't be late." Leela walked out of that building feeling as though she'd been handed a lifeline. That night, in the cramped room she shared with her mother, she carefully ironed her best dupatta and whispered a prayer of gratitude. The Meira estate was more than a home, it was a statement. Sprawling gardens, marble fountains, a driveway that could fit 10 cars, and a mansion that rose like a palace from a storybook. Leela felt small as she walked through the service entrance, carrying her modest bag and trying not to stare. The staff quarters were clean and orderly, the kitchen enormous and bustling with cooks and attendants. But the warmth she'd hoped for was absent. The other staff moved with mechanical efficiency, their faces guarded. No one met her eyes for long. "You're the new girl," a housekeeper barely glanced at her. "Keep your head down, do your work, and for God's sake, stay out of Miss Malhotra's way. She's particular about everything." Before Leela could ask what that meant, she was handed a cleaning cart and a list of rooms. The first was Anya's bedroom. Leela knocked softly before entering. The room was a princess's dream, canopy bed, shelves overflowing with dolls and books, pastel walls painted with clouds. But the little girl sitting on the floor, hugging a stuffed rabbit, looked anything but happy. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she flinched when Leela stepped inside. "Hi," Leela said gently, kneeling down to the child's level. "I'm Leela. I'm new here, what's your name?" "Anya," the girl whispered, clutching the rabbit tighter. "Are you going to tell me I'm messy?" "Messy? No," Leela smiled. "I think your room is beautiful, and that rabbit looks very loved. Does he have a name?" For the first time, Anya's face softened. "Mr. Floppy, my mom gave him to me before she went to heaven." Leela's heart clenched. Then he must be very special. "I promise I'll be careful around him." As Leela quietly tidied the room, Anya watched her with cautious curiosity. By the time Leela finished, the little girl had inched closer, asking shy questions about where Leela lived and if she liked stories. It was the first real conversation Anya had had with anyone in weeks. Their moment was shattered by the sharp click of heels in the hallway. Karina Malhotra swept into the room like a cold wind, her designer outfit immaculate, her smile bright and utterly empty. She barely glanced at Leela. "Anya, darling, why aren't you dressed yet? We have a brunch meeting with my friends in an hour, and I need you to look presentable." Her voice was honey over ice. Then, to Leela, without even turning her head, "You make sure this room stays spotless. I don't tolerate carelessness." "Yes, ma'am," Leela murmured, her eyes downcast. Karina left as quickly as she'd arrived, and Anya's small shoulders slumped. "She's always like that when Daddy's not here," she whispered. Leela wanted to say something comforting, but she didn't know what. So instead, she squeezed Anya's hand gently. "You're not alone, okay?" Later that afternoon, Leela was carrying linens across the courtyard when she passed the garage. A man in a driver's uniform was polishing one of the estate's black sedans, his movements methodical, his face obscured by a cap. Something about him seemed out of place. His posture was too straight, his hands too clean for someone used to manual labor. He glanced up as she walked by, and for a moment their eyes met. His gaze was intense, searching, as though he were trying to read her soul in a single look. Then he nodded politely and returned to his work. "That's Raj," another staff member muttered as they passed. "New driver, doesn't talk much, keeps to himself." Leela thought nothing more of it. She had her own troubles to worry about. But Arjun Meira, hidden behind the humble disguise of Raj, watched Leela disappear into the mansion. And for the first time since beginning this dangerous experiment, he felt a flicker of doubt. He'd seen her kindness with Anya, the gentle way she spoke, the genuine warmth in her eyes. If Karina's cruelty escalated, if his test put innocent people like Leela in harm's way, could he live with the consequences? He pushed the thought aside. He needed the truth. And the truth, he told himself, was worth the risk. But deep down, he wasn't sure he believed that anymore. As the days passed, the mansion revealed its hidden nature. Karina was a chameleon, gracious and warm in front of cameras, cold and cutting the moment she thought no one important was watching. She snapped at the cook for oversalting soup, berated the gardener for a single wilted rose, and treated Anya like an inconvenient accessory, scolding her for being too loud, too messy, too there. But it was during a Saturday brunch, with Karina's influencer friends, elegant women draped in designer labels and dripping with jewelry, that Leela first felt the full weight of Karina's contempt. Leela was serving fresh juice when one of the guests wrinkled her nose. "Is this mango or orange? I specifically asked for mango." "I'm sorry, ma'am, I was told," Leela began. Karina cut her off with a laugh, sharp and performative. "You see what I have to deal with? It's so hard to find competent help these days. Arjun insists on hiring from those charity programs, but honestly, some people just aren't suited for this kind of environment. They don't understand refinement." The women laughed, a chorus of tinkling cruelty. One of them eyed Leela's modest clothes with barely concealed disdain. "Well, you can't expect much. People from that background, they're just not raised with the same standards. I've heard they even steal sometimes." Leela's cheeks burned. She set the tray down with trembling hands and excused herself, feeling their laughter chase her out of the room like a pack of wolves. From the driveway, Arjun, still in his driver's uniform, had been walking past the open French doors when he heard Karina's voice, heard the casual cruelty, the classist poison delivered with a smile. His hands clenched into fists around the car keys he was holding. Every instinct screamed at him to march inside, to rip off his disguise and defend Leela, to fire Karina on the spot. But he forced himself to stay still. "Not yet, I need more, I need undeniable proof." Still, guilt gnawed at him. This was his fault. He'd brought Leela here, he'd put her in Karina's line of fire. The breaking point came a week later. Karina had been planning a small dinner party, and the staff had been working overtime to prepare. Leela was polishing silver in the dining room when Karina entered, her expression unreadable. She watched Leela work for a moment, then moved to a nearby cabinet, opening a jewelry box and removing a pair of diamond earrings. Simple but expensive, the kind of piece that whispered wealth rather than shouting it. "These are my favorites," Karina said aloud, to no one in particular. She set them on the sideboard, walked to the doorway and called for the house manager. Then she left the room. Leela didn't think anything of it. She finished the silver, placed it carefully in the drawers, and pushed her cart out into the hallway. She didn't notice the earrings tucked under a polishing cloth in the corner of her cart, placed there by Karina's quick, practiced hands the moment Leela's back was turned. An hour later, Karina's voice rang through the mansion, sharp and panicked. "My earrings, my diamond earrings are missing." Staff was summoned to the main hall. Karina stood at the center like a prosecutor, her face a mask of distress. "I left them on the sideboard for just a moment, and now they're gone. Someone in this house is a thief." The house manager began a search, checking rooms and bags. When she reached Leela's cart, still parked in the hallway, she lifted the polishing cloth, and there they were, glittering under the fluorescent light. "No," Leela breathed, her face going white. "No, I didn't. I don't know how those got there." Karina's expression hardened into something cold and victorious. "I knew it. I knew people like you couldn't be trusted. You come into a good home, you're given a fair wage, and this is how you repay generosity, by stealing." "I didn't steal anything." Leela's voice broke. "Please, you have to believe me, I would never." But Karina was already addressing the house manager, her voice ringing with authority. "I want her out now, and if she resists, call the police. I will not tolerate theft in my home." Anya, who had been playing in the garden, heard the commotion and ran inside. She pushed through the gathered staff and grabbed Leela's hand. "Leela didn't do it. She didn't. She's my friend. She would never steal." Karina's smile was ice. "Anya, darling, you're too young to understand. Sometimes people aren't who they seem. Go to your room." "No, you're lying." "You enough." Karina's voice cracked like a whip, and Anya flinched. Two staff members gently pulled the sobbing child away as Leela was escorted toward the service entrance, her eyes streaming with tears, her heart shattered. From the garage, Arjun watched it all unfold on the discreet security feed he'd had installed. He saw Karina plant the earrings. He saw the cruel efficiency of the setup. Rage and guilt warred inside him. He grabbed his phone and called Vikram. "Stop the police report," he said, his voice barely controlled. "Make sure Leela gets her full pay and a severance. And Vikram, I was wrong. I thought I was testing Karina. But I'm the one who's failed. I brought an innocent woman into this house and let her be destroyed." "What do you want to do?" Arjun closed his eyes. "Not yet. I need to see how far Karina will go. But I'm done watching from the shadows. It's time to finish this. At the mansion gates, Leela stood with her small bag, her eyes red and swollen. Anya had slipped away from her nanny and run to the gate, pressing a small stuffed toy, a little bird, into Leela's hand. "Don't forget me," Anya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please don't forget me." Leela knelt down, hugging the child tightly. "Never. I promise." As she walked away from the mansion, Leela carried the weight of injustice on her shoulders, but she also carried something else. The fierce, unshakable determination to survive, and the quiet hope that one day the truth would find its way into the light. Leela's rented room was a study in survival, peeling paint on the walls, a single window that let in more noise than light, a narrow bed she shared with her mother on the coldest nights. After being fired from the Mehra mansion, every door in the city seemed to close in her face. She applied to cleaning agencies, hotels, even small family businesses, but Karina's reach was longer than Leela had realized. A few pointed phone calls, a whispered word in the right circles, and suddenly Leela was that girl, the one who stole, the one who couldn't be trusted. Her mother, Mira, lay on the bed, her breathing labored, her body weakened by an illness they could no longer afford to treat properly. Leela held her hand and lied with a smile. "I'll find something soon, Amar, don't worry." But at night, when her mother finally slept, Leela sat by the window and let the tears come. The only light in her darkness was the phone calls. Anya had somehow kept the cheap mobile phone Leela had once lent her for emergencies, hidden deep in her wardrobe. Late at night, when Karina thought the child was asleep, Anya would whisper into the phone, her voice small and scared. "Leela, are you there? I'm here, baby. I'm always here. I miss you. The new nanny doesn't read stories like you did. And Karina makes me take these vitamins every night. They taste bitter and make me so sleepy. I don't like them. I tried to tell her I don't want them, but she said if I don't take them, Daddy won't love me anymore when he comes home." Leela's blood ran cold. "Anya, listen to me. Don't take anything Karina gives you unless someone else is in the room, okay? If you can, pour it out, hide it, please." "Okay," Anya whispered. "Leela, when will you come back?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find a way. I promise." Arjun Mehra, still living the lie of being Raj the driver, moved through the edges of the city like a ghost. His carefully maintained disguise, simple clothes, a beaten cap, a posture of deference, allowed him to see a world he'd never truly known, despite all his wealth and philanthropy. One afternoon, on a fabricated errand to pick up supplies from a vendor in Leela's neighborhood, he saw her. She stood outside a small street stall, counting coins in her palm, then gently refusing food for herself so she could buy a meal for an elderly man sitting on the curb, too weak to beg. Arjun watched, something twisting in his chest, as Leela knelt beside the man, spoke to him kindly, and made sure he ate before she walked away, her own stomach empty. Later he saw her again. A child had darted into the street, chasing a runaway ball, and a speeding motorcycle bore down on them. Without hesitation, Leela lunged forward, yanking the child back and taking a hard fall onto the pavement herself. The child's mother rushed over, weeping with gratitude, while Leela simply smiled through her scraped palms and bruised knees and waved away the thanks. Arjun sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel, his carefully constructed plan crumbling in the face of undeniable truth. He had destroyed this woman's reputation to test another woman's character. What did that make him? That night, he called Vikram again. "Find a way to get Leela work. Use one of our subsidiary companies, something legitimate but unconnected to me directly. She needs income, and Vikram, we're accelerating the endgame. I can't let this go on much longer." "Understood. But Arjun, you need to be ready. Karina's planning something big. She's pushing hard for an accelerated wedding date, and her lawyers have been asking about trust revisions. Whatever she's planning, it's going to happen soon. Then we'll be ready." Back at the mansion, Karina Malhotra was a woman on a mission. With Arjun conveniently abroad and unable to interfere, she and Rohan Desai, Arjun's business partner and her silent accomplice, worked quickly. They pushed for new documents that would give Karina legal authority over Anya in case of any incapacity on Arjun's part. They arranged private meetings with lawyers. And they scheduled a massive charity gala, ostensibly to raise money for children's health, but really a stage for their final move. "We need to move fast," Rohan muttered during one of their late-night meetings in Karina's dressing room, his voice tense. "If Arjun starts digging when he gets back." "He won't," Karina said coolly, applying lipstick with practiced precision. "By the time he returns, the narrative will already be set. Anya will have a very public medical incident at the gala. I'll be the devoted stepmother, desperate to save her. The girl will need specialized care abroad, and I'll have guardianship paperwork ready to sign. Once she's out of the country, we control the trust, Rohan, all of it. And the driver. That Raj guy seems observant." Karina waved a hand dismissively. "He's nobody, just a driver. Now make sure the sedative is the right dose, enough to cause a collapse, not enough to be dangerous. We need sympathy, not scandal." What neither of them knew was that Arjun had spent a significant amount to upgrade the mansion's security system before his departure, and every word of that conversation was being recorded. To handle the gala staffing, Karina accepted a proposal from the event company, conveniently owned by one of Arjun's subsidiaries, to hire temporary workers to reduce costs. Among those workers was a familiar name, Leela Sharma. When Leela received the call offering her a single day's work at a high-profile gala, she hesitated. The address was the Mehra mansion. Her heart clenched at the thought of returning to the place that had destroyed her reputation, but she needed the money desperately. Her mother's medicine couldn't wait. "I'll do it," she said quietly. Arjun, monitoring the arrangements from his driver's quarters, felt the weight of guilt and grim determination settle over him. He'd orchestrated Leela's return, knowing she was one of the few people Anya still trusted, but bringing her back into Karina's orbit was dangerous. If anything went wrong, he couldn't think about that. He had to trust that this time he'd be ready. Leela arrived at the mansion before dawn, wearing a rented server's uniform that was slightly too large, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. The other temporary staff barely glanced at her, but the permanent household workers, the ones who'd seen her dragged out in disgrace, whispered and stared. Karina, overseeing preparations in the ballroom, spotted her and smiled, a predator's smile. Well, I hope you understand that you're here on my generosity," Karina said, her voice loud enough for others to hear. "One mistake, one missing item, and you'll be out again, permanently this time. Do we understand each other?" "Yes, ma'am," Leela said, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "Good. Stay in the kitchen and away from the guests. You're not fit to be seen." But later, when the preparations grew hectic, Leela managed to slip into a quiet hallway. A small figure appeared from around the corner, Anya, pale and thin, her eyes lighting up like stars. Anya threw herself into Leela's arms, sobbing with relief. "You came back, I knew you would." "SHH, baby, not so loud," Leela whispered, holding her tightly. "I'm only here for today, but I'm here okay." "I'm here." From the shadows near the service stairs, Raj watched the reunion, his jaw tight. He'd seen Anya growing paler, more subdued, on the security feeds. He'd seen the nanny measuring out doses of unlabeled syrup every night. And he'd heard Karina's plans on the recordings. Tonight, he knew Karina would make her move. And tonight, he would have to step out of the shadows and reveal who he truly was, no matter the cost. But first, he needed one more piece of evidence, something undeniable, something even Karina couldn't talk her way out of. And he had a feeling that Leela, with her fierce protective instinct and Anya's trust, might be the key to getting it. As the day wore on, Leela moved through the mansion like a ghost, polishing silver, arranging tables, avoiding Karina's sharp gaze. But her mind was far from the tasks at hand. Anya's words haunted her, bitter vitamins, forced sedation, threats tied to her father's love. Something was deeply, dangerously wrong. During a brief break in the kitchen, Leela found herself standing beside Raj, who was quietly checking the cars in preparation for guest arrivals. He glanced at her, his eyes serious. "You care about Anya," he said. It wasn't a question. "Of course I do," Leela replied, surprised by the directness. "She's just a child. She deserves better than this." Raj hesitated, then spoke carefully, his voice low. If you suspect something's wrong, if you think someone is hurting her, would you be willing to help gather proof, even if it's risky? Leela met his eyes, searching for any hint of a trap, but all she saw was grim determination and something else, something that looked like guilt. What do you mean? Anya trusts you. If you could get close to Karina, maybe overhear a conversation or find something that proves what she's doing, it could save that little girl. Leela's pulse quickened. You think Karina's hurting her? I know she is, but knowing and proving are two different things. For a moment, Leela was silent. Then she nodded. Tell me what to do. That evening, while the household was distracted by gala preparations, Leela slipped into Anya's room. The little girl was supposed to be resting, but she was awake, sitting by the window, pale and listless. Anya, sweetheart, I need your help with something, Leela said gently. Do you still have that tablet you use for drawing? Anya nodded, pulling it from under her pillow. Good. I'm going to set it to record sound, and I need you to accidentally leave it in Karina's dressing room, maybe on the couch, like you forgot it while playing. Can you do that? Anya's eyes widened. Are you going to catch her being mean? Something like that. But Anya, you have to be very careful. If she finds out, we could both be in trouble. I don't care, Anya said fiercely. I want Daddy to know the truth. I want her gone. An hour later, the tablet sat innocuously on a velvet cushion in Karina's private dressing room, its microphone silently recording as Karina and Rohan entered for one of their final pre-gala strategy sessions. Everything's in place, Rohan said, pacing. The sedative will be in the juice. The nanny knows to keep Anya near the main hall for the toast. Once she collapses, you play the distraught mother, insist on private doctors, and we'll have her out of the country within 48 hours. And the legal documents? Ready. Once she's under medical care, you'll have full guardianship. Arjun won't be able to touch the trust without your signature. Karina laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. It's almost poetic. The great Arjun Mehra, brought down by his own sentimentality, he should have married someone who actually wanted the brat. The recording captured every word. That night, Leela and Raj huddled in the dim service stairwell, listening to the playback on the tablet. Karina's voice, cold and calculating, echoed in the narrow space. Leela's hands trembled. We have to go to the police, she whispered urgently. Right now, before the gala. No, Raj's voice was firm. If we go now, Karina will have time to destroy evidence, to spin the story. We need to catch her in the act, with witnesses, with undeniable proof. But Anya, if they drug her, I won't let anything happen to her. I swear it. Raj's eyes burned with an intensity that made Leela pause. Trust me, I'll get this recording to someone who can use it, someone with the authority to stop her. And tomorrow at the gala, we'll be ready. Leela wanted to argue, but something in his voice, something commanding, absolute, made her nod. Who are you really? She asked quietly. Raj looked at her for a long moment, then simply said, someone who's made too many mistakes, and tomorrow I'm going to fix them. The night of the gala arrived like a storm dressed in silk. The Mehra mansion blazed with light, every chandelier a constellation, every surface gleaming. Guests arrived in waves, celebrities, politicians, business magnates, all eager to be seen supporting children's health while sipping champagne and making deals in the shadows. Karina was radiant, her emerald gown catching every camera flash, her smile practiced and perfect. She moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting praise and making sure everyone saw her with Anya, the devoted almost stepmother, caring for the poor motherless child. But Anya, dressed in a pale pink gown that made her look even frailer, kept glancing toward the edges of the crowd, searching for Leela. And Leela, stationed behind a flower arrangement near the kitchen doors, watched back, her heart pounding. Raj Arjun stood near the main entrance, outwardly calm, his driver's uniform immaculate, but his phone buzzed in his pocket. Vikram's message confirming he'd received the audio file and was standing by with legal documents and a contact at the police department. Everything was in place, except Arjun couldn't shake the sense that he'd set a trap he might not be able to control. Across the ballroom, Karina gave a subtle nod to the bartender, who began preparing a special glass of orange juice, bright, fresh, and laced with a carefully measured dose of sedative. The nanny, paid well to follow orders without question, gently guided Anya toward the center of the room, where Karina was about to give a speech. Leela saw the juice being prepared. She saw the way Karina's eyes tracked Anya's movement, and in that moment she knew this was it. This was the moment everything would either unravel into justice or spiral into tragedy. She started moving toward the center of the room, her pulse roaring in her ears, even as staff hissed at her to stay back. Raj saw her moving and started forward as well, his disguise forgotten, his only thought to reach Anya before Karina's voice rang out, amplified by the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. This cause is so close to my heart. Our children are our future, and we must protect them at all costs." She gestured gracefully, and the bartender handed her the glass of orange juice. Karina turned to Anya with a dazzling smile, the cameras flashing. "Darling, you look tired. Drink this, it's your favorite." Anya hesitated, her small hands reluctant. Leela pushed past a waiter, shouting, "Wait, don't," but the music swelled and her voice was swallowed by the noise. And Anya, caught in the weight of expectation and fear, raised the glass to her lips and drank. The effect was almost immediate. Anya's eyes glazed. She swayed, the glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the marble floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the little girl crumpled, her small body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Karina's scream was perfectly timed, perfectly pitched. "Anya, oh my God, someone help her," guests surged forward. Phones came out. The nanny rushed over, performing distress. Karina bent over Anya, then suddenly straightened, her face a mask of horror and fury. In her hand was a small glass vial, empty, the kind used for concentrated liquids. This was in her apron. Karina pointed a shaking finger directly at Leela, who stood frozen a few feet away. "I saw her near the juice earlier. She must have poisoned it. She poisoned my daughter." The crowd turned as one. Leela's face drained of blood. "No, I didn't, I would never," but security was already moving. Karina's voice rose, righteous and furious, playing to the cameras, to the crowd. She was fired for theft weeks ago, and she came back for revenge. She tried to kill an innocent child. "That's not true," Leela sobbed as rough hands grabbed her arms. "Please, someone listen, Karina is lying. She's the one who—" "Take her away," Karina shrieked. "I want her arrested. I want justice for Anya." The crowd murmured, horrified, sympathetic to Karina. Paramedics rushed in, loading Anya onto a stretcher, and Leela, tears streaming down her face, was dragged backward toward the entrance, her protests drowned by the chaos. From the edge of the ballroom, Raj, Arjun, stood frozen for one terrible moment, watching Leela hauled away, watching Karina play the devastated mother, watching his daughter loaded into an ambulance. His experiment, his arrogance, his need to test people in secret, had led to this. Enough. He pulled off his cap, ran a hand through his hair, and strode toward Vikram, who had just arrived at the front entrance in a sleek car, flanked by a police inspector and a lawyer. "It's time," Arjun said, his voice cold and absolute. "End this." The hospital consultation room was sterile and cold, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Anya lay in the next room, sedated but stable, monitors beeping steadily. Leela sat in a hard plastic chair, handcuffed, her face pale and streaked with tears, while a police inspector reviewed the preliminary statements. Karina stood nearby, wrapped in a shawl, playing the part of the grieving almost mother with practiced ease. "Miss Sharma," the inspector said wearily, "the evidence is not in your favor. A vial found in your possession, a prior accusation of theft, and multiple witnesses who saw you near the victim before the collapse." "I didn't do it," Leela's voice broke. "Please, you have to believe me. She framed me. She's been drugging Anya for weeks." "That's a serious accusation," the inspector said. "Do you have proof?" Before Leela could answer, the door opened. Vikram Kapoor strode in, flanked by two other lawyers, carrying a briefcase. "Inspector, I'm here representing Miss Sharma. I also have evidence you'll want to see before proceeding." Karina's expression flickered, just for a second, but she recovered quickly. "This is absurd. That woman tried to murder a child." The door opened again, and Raj walked in, except he wasn't Raj anymore. He'd changed into a tailored suit, his posture transformed, his face clean and commanding. He was every inch Arjun Mehra, billionaire, philanthropist, the man everyone thought was thousands of miles away. The room went silent. Karina's face went white. "Arjun," she whispered. You're supposed to be in Singapore. I never left," Arjun said quietly, his voice hard as steel. "I've been here the entire time, watching, waiting, gathering evidence." Karina's mouth opened and closed. Rohan, who'd followed the ambulance and was standing in the hallway, looked ready to bolt. Arjun turned to the inspector. "My name is Arjun Mehra. For the past month, I've been working undercover in my own household as a driver to investigate suspected abuse and fraud. I have recordings, financial documents, and video evidence that will prove Miss Sharma is innocent and that my fiancée and business partner conspired to drug my daughter, frame an innocent woman, and steal from me." He nodded to Vikram, who connected a laptop to a screen on the wall. The audio recording played first, Karina and Rohan's voices, cold and calculated, discussing the sedative, the timing, the plan to ship Anya abroad for control of the trust. Karina tried to interrupt, to claim it was edited, but Vikram calmly produced metadata and a forensic analysis confirming its authenticity. Then came the bank records, transfer attempts to shell companies, funds siphoned from Arjun's accounts, paperwork with forged signatures. Then came the video, security footage from the gala kitchen, time-stamped and clear, showing Karina quietly opening a small vial and tipping its contents into the glass meant for Anya, before slipping the empty vial into a server's apron as Leela walked past. The room was silent except for the hum of the laptop. Karina's face crumbled. That's not, you don't understand. Explain it then," Arjun said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Explain why you poisoned my daughter. Explain why you framed an innocent woman. Explain why you and Rohan planned to steal everything I've built." Karina's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, a sympathetic face. Finding none, she turned on Rohan. "It was his idea. He was the one with the debts. He pressured me. I didn't want to." "Liar," Rohan shouted, his composure shattering. "You planned this from the beginning. You said Anya was in the way. You said if we could just get her out of the picture." "Shut up," Karina screamed. But it was too late. The inspector had heard enough. He nodded to his officers. "Karina Malhotra, Rohan Desai, you're both under arrest for attempted poisoning, child endangerment, fraud, and conspiracy." As the officers moved forward, Karina's mask finally, completely shattered. She turned on Arjun, her face twisted with rage. "You self-righteous bastard. You think you're so noble, hiding in your mansion, testing people like lab rats. You loved playing God more than you ever loved that brat or me. All of this whole disaster, is because you couldn't trust anyone, because you had to play your sick games." Her words hit their mark. Arjun's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "You're right," he said quietly. "I did this. I tested you and I tested everyone around me, and in doing so I put innocent people in danger. That's on me. But you," his voice turned to ice, "you chose to poison a child. You chose cruelty. And now you'll face the consequences." Karina was led away, still screaming threats and accusations, her designer gown a bitter contrast to the handcuffs on her wrists. Rohan followed, silent and broken. When the door closed behind them, the consultation room felt suddenly, oppressively quiet. The inspector removed Leela's handcuffs, murmuring an apology, and quietly left to process the arrests. Leela sat there, rubbing her wrists, her mind struggling to catch up with everything that had just happened. Finally, she looked up at Arjun, at Raj, and her voice was small and raw. "You knew the whole time. You were Raj. You were testing us." "Yes," Arjun couldn't meet her eyes. "I thought I was being clever. I thought I could uncover the truth without risk. But I was wrong. I put you in harm's way. I destroyed your reputation. I let Karina hurt you because I wanted more proof, more certainty. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Leela." Before she could respond, a nurse opened the door. "Mr. Mehra, your daughter is awake. She's asking for her father and for someone named Leela." Anya's hospital room was softly lit, the machines beeping a steady rhythm of life. The little girl was propped up on pillows, pale but awake, her eyes searching the doorway. When she saw Arjun and Leela enter together, her face crumpled with relief. "Daddy, Leela." Arjun crossed the room in 2 strides, gathering his daughter into his arms, his own eyes wet. "I'm here, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there to protect you." "But you were," Anya said, her voice small and confused. "You were Raj. I heard people talking. You were there the whole time." "I was, but I should have stopped it sooner. I should have been honest." Anya looked past him to where Leela stood in the doorway, uncertain. "Leela, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" Leela stepped forward, her throat tight. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I'm just glad you're safe." Anya reached out a small hand, and Leela took it. For a moment, the 3 of them stood there in the soft glow of the hospital room, broken, bruised, but together. Arjun looked at Leela, his voice rough with emotion. "I can't undo what I did to you, but I can promise you this. I will make it right. I'll clear your name publicly. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a hero, not a thief. And if you'll allow it, I'd like you to come back, not as a maid, but as Anya's caregiver, with a real position, real respect, and a home for you and your mother on the estate." Leela stared at him, tears brimming. "You don't have to. I do, because you did something I couldn't. You protected my daughter when I was too proud to see the danger. You risked everything for a child who wasn't even yours. That's not something I can ever repay, but I'd like to try." Anya squeezed Leela's hand. "Please stay, Leela, please." And in that small, sterile room, under the weight of pain and hope and hard-won truth, Leela nodded. "Okay. I'll stay." 6 weeks later, the Mehra mansion looked the same from the outside, grand, imposing, surrounded by manicured gardens, but inside, everything had changed. The once gold halls now echoed with laughter. Anya ran freely through the corridors, no longer afraid, her cheeks pink and healthy. The new staff policies Arjun implemented meant that anyone could report abuse or mistreatment without fear, and he held regular meetings to make sure voices were heard, not silenced. Leela and her mother, Meera, lived in a comfortable cottage on the estate grounds, surrounded by flowering plants and birdsong. Leela held the formal title of head of household and child welfare, overseeing not just Anya's care, but also the treatment of every worker on the property. She was respected, valued, and finally safe. One warm afternoon, Anya insisted on a tree planting ceremony. She'd chosen a young mango sapling and wanted Leela and her father to help plant it in the garden. "Why a mango tree?" Arjun asked, amused, as he dug the hole. "Because Leela said mangoes are her favorite," Anya said matter-of-factly, "and because it'll grow big and strong just like us." Leela knelt beside her, guiding her small hands as they placed the sapling into the earth. "That's right, Anya, and one day you'll eat mangoes from this tree and remember that even when things are broken, they can grow again." Arjun watched them, his daughter and the woman who'd saved her, and felt something loosen in his chest, a knot of guilt and pride and gratitude he wasn't sure he deserved to feel. "Leela," he said quietly, "thank you, not just for Anya, for reminding me what real strength looks like." Leela looked up at him, dirt on her hands, the sun warm on her face. "You did the right thing in the end, Mr. Mehra. That's what matters." "Arjun," he corrected gently. "Just Arjun," she smiled. "Arjun then." Anya patted the soil around the sapling, then turned to Leela with a shy, hopeful expression. "Leela, can I call you something else?" "Not Miss Leela, something more like family." Leela's eyes filled with tears. "What would you like to call me, sweetheart? Can I call you Ma? Not like my real Ma who's in heaven, but like a second Ma who's here?" Leela's breath caught. She looked at Arjun, who nodded, his own eyes wet. Then she pulled Anya into a fierce hug. Yes, you can. I'd be honored." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in golds and pinks, the 3 of them stood together in the garden, their hands dirty from planting, their hearts lighter than they'd been in months. The mango sapling stood small but proud, its young leaves catching the last of the daylight, a promise of growth, of patience, of second chances earned through courage and truth. In the end, truth had found its voice in the most unexpected places, not in wealth or power, but in the fierce loyalty of a woman with nothing to lose and everything to protect, and in a child's simple insistence that love and safety were not privileges, but rights. Karina's downfall became a cautionary tale whispered through elite circles, a reminder that cruelty, no matter how well-dressed, would always be exposed. And Arjan's foundation launched a new initiative, legal protections and support systems for domestic workers, ensuring that no one like Leela would ever be silenced or discarded again. The mansion on the hill still stood as a symbol of wealth, but now it also stood for something else: the quiet, unshakable strength of those who choose kindness over cruelty and the truth over convenient lies. What would you have done in Leela's place? Stayed silent or fought for the truth even when the world was against you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because stories like these remind us that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, "I will try again tomorrow."